Happy Saturday, everyone. It's 101, Magical 101. The universe is smiling at us. Hopefully you are all smiling, thriving, enjoying this whatever January weather you are experiencing. I promise that I will continue with our series to get educated, to rise higher, to step into our power as the creator of the reality we want to truly experience. So I will be waiting for people to tune in, and then we can get into it. So at the beginning, I had this very fascinating discussion. It was like 2-hour discussion, and it was truly, truly eye-opening, fascinating. When you really start diving deep into the philosophical, existential meanings of things. So I was in a meeting, and someone, hey Joe, sending much love to you too. Thank you for all your support. And we were talking about the hierarchy of law, hierarchy of defending our rights, which we achieve once we comprehend law, who we are, where we stand, and what the true hierarchy is. And we were discussing, because many people like to search for the what is the fundamental of the law, what is it based on. And so this is why we have to comprehend the hierarchy, the marching order. Where does it all start and where does it end? Well, where it ends, I really do not know, because there is so much of stuff and chaos going on that it truly doesn't have possibly ending. But we have to comprehend that the highest law is the one that we cannot really see. That's the unwritten, that's the God's law, that's the trust law that we are entrusted with. So that's where it starts. And people will argue, well, this is the written form of it. No, God's law, nature's God, based on nature's God, cannot be written. Why? Because if you speak any other language like I do, you will comprehend that there are certain things in certain cultures and languages that you cannot say, you cannot really properly translate. Because it's based on the culture, it's based on the experience, it's based on that geographic location. So, for example, this is why God's law was really not written, but is wired into our hearts. I call it the compass. That's the compass that always tells us the difference between right and wrong. You see, this is why it cannot be written, because once you start writing, how do you express what love is? How do you write what air is? How do you write what orgasm is? You can try, you can really write it from your perspective as you see it, and it will really depend on the ability of the way how you can translate it, how you can express it. But if someone has never had orgasm, how will you explain it to them? If someone never experienced love, how will you explain it to them? They will think that they comprehend it, that they know what you are talking about, but they will never truly know it until they've experienced it. So that is why God's law, nature's God's law, cannot be written. This is why it's wired into our hearts, which always tells us what's right and what's wrong. It always guides us. It always tells us. And so when we had this discussion, this conversation, I was told, well, Lenka, law was written for the unlawful. And I made a post about it, and it went crickets. No one mentioned anything. So think about it. When we are dealing with nature's God's law, with the highest law there is, that's basically the universal laws, the laws that cannot be negotiated, cannot be changed, they cannot be codified, they just are. It's the law of vibration, it's the law of relativity, it's the law of transmutation. There are 7 fundamental universal laws. These laws are set. They are set, written in stone. We are wired to them, and you can try all you want. You will never change them because they are set for this life experience. So these laws are set. And if you notice in the nature, all the animals, all the animal kingdom, which by the way we belong to as well, but we are kind of in a special kind of category, they are wired to that. They know. And if you go and you observe the animals in the wild, or even your own animals, they know what to do. They don't need to go and be studying books and thinking about their creator and who they are and why they are. They just know they are and what their purpose is and what the laws are, and they adhere to them. And also what they do, they don't allow someone else manipulate them with some CAD-made rules and laws and codes and statutes and regulations. So it's us, the mankind, that got completely lost. And if you really look at through the history, it was basically to remove us further and further from our creator, whoever or however you imagine it. So people got further and further removed. So now they really do not know. They don't know these God's laws. They are lost. They are in this constant search of who I am, why I am. And they are, many people are literally addicted to the seeking on the external. This is why they are addicted to all these pleasures, right? Going from one pleasure to another. But what happens to the time in between? And there are all these, I call it the addictions, because it's basically to avoid yourself, to avoid really comprehension who you are and why you are. So this is why it's absolutely true that the God's law is unwritten, and that the law was really written for the unlawful who are not connected to their compass, who are not connected in their heart. And this is why they have to be reminded, they have to be taught. And whenever the man takes control and charge of something, it's going to most likely be either manipulated or it's going to be comprehended, misunderstood. Okay, so it's very important to really comprehend the hierarchy of the law. So we have the highest law, that's the God's law, out of which we have trust law. Then we have the law of the land, which is called the Constitution, the supreme law of the land, because we are the living people, we are walking on the land. And out of which we have equity law, we have the contract law, which is now the Uniform Commercial Code, the UCC, which is the merchant's law. And it's all, if you really start really looking deep into it and comprehending, it's all connected. It has to be in harmony. It has to be in harmony in these universal laws. The only thing is that it tricks you, okay? It tricks you believing into something you are not. And this is why it's so important that, we really silence the mind, the chatter in the mind, the white noise, and we really comprehend, our position, which is called the standing, which then comes the character. Very, very critical, very, very important. So as we are going forth with what we've been discussing in the previous videos, we've talked about how whenever whenever there is an issue, it was provided to you by the law, I should say controversy, by the law, the written law, the mankind law, that you have a right to remedy. And someone was asking to me, well, Alenka, what do I do when there are liens placed? Well, if you go and you watch all my previous videos when I was talking about the mortgage fraud and really the fact that because we don't have any money, we cannot pay for anything, everything can be either set off, terminated, or discharged, but they just don't tell you. And people do not read. They do not understand what really all these acts are talking about, how it applies to them. But once you do, and you start asking, well, show me the money. Where is the money? Where was I loaned something? And you have the right to remedy, which is actually codified in the UCC. It's Article 1, Section 201, and you start reading what the remedy is, that you have a right to remedy. Now, someone was asking about the liens. So the liens, once again, I need to remind everyone, and they were asking when the attorneys, when the law firm places a lien in this mortgage dispute, in this mortgage controversy, you have to remember that first of all, there was no loan. Your promissory note was what funded this alleged loan. That's the credit that gets exchanged for the FRNs. You just don't know about it. So if there was no loan, well, now there is no mortgage. If there is no mortgage, there is no debt. If there is no debt, how can there be a lien? There cannot be a lien. Okay? Like, for example, I have a lien here that I placed on someone who didn't pay, and it's backed. It's backed by my private administrative process where they admitted and confessed to the fact that they caused me injuries to be paid by through damages for a certain amount. So the lien is null and void because there was no loan. So the loan is the fundamental, that's the foundation, that's the fundamental fact. If they can prove to you that there was a loan, that there for there to be the mortgage, for there to be the debt, for there to be some lien that someone can place, for there to be a foreclosure, well, none of this exists if the loan didn't exist from the very, very beginning. See, that's where a lot of people get sidetracked and get scared and get confused and get bamboozled because they do not focus on the fundamental fact that in order for all of this to be discussed, there has to be the beginning. There has to be the loan, which is that something of substance was given to you that you accepted, and now there is a law for a definition of the loan. Now, another thing we have to remember is that everything is a fiction. These are corporations. These are corporations, and so they are not our government. And these financial institutions, you have to remember very, very important fact that they call themselves banks. And what we think about these banks is that there is this institution, a building that has this vault, and there's all this gold and silver and this money, FRNs, whatever it might be, but it's not how it is. They don't have anything. They don't have anything, and they cannot loan their own credit or someone else's credit. There is no money. There is no money in circulation. So all they are doing is they are performing banking transactions. They are licensed to purchase the security instruments, which are the notes the applications that are securitized, because anything you put your name on, your social security, and then your signature, now it becomes security. So that's all they are doing. They are licensed and authorized to purchase the securities, exchange them for FRNs, and to fool people. That's what's been done. That's how it's done. You will even find it in all the manuals of all these different banks, that banks make money by making loans. What? You make money? You create money by making loans? It says it right there in the manuals, if you really go and you start reading. So with these liens, what I also wanted to say is that because everything is corporate, which is a fiction, okay, it's not real, it's a fiction. So they had to create a fiction. That's why they created, they used your name and they created the trust that you think it's you, but it's really a trust, a corporation, in order to be able to deal with you and work with you. Okay, and basically it was set on the premises that when you come to age, when you stop being minor, you will know how to operate your estate. But the problem is that most people are not coming to age. They are functioning as minors, and they think of the all capital letter name that it's them, that it's same as the upper and lower case name, which is not the truth. So these corporations, they had to create a way how to communicate with you. So now they basically communicate with your trust, with your estate. And in order to deal with the land, they also had to create some fiction with that, which is the federal territory, which is identified with your zip code. So for example, we are in California, so the 9 in the zip code stipulates that we are in 9th district of the District of Columbia, okay? So whenever you are putting the zip code with your address, you are placing yourself and your property into the federal territory, which is the overlay. And so through the overlay, they created the assessor's map where they created the APN number or just parcel number. And I know that some other states, they don't have the same naming, but it's basically some kind of parcel, which is an overlay created over the surveyor's map, placing the property into a federal territory on a paper, okay? It's all just one dimensional. It's just a paper. And so when they are doing these liens, these law firms, that's also what it's for. So when you do your land patent, you bring forth and perfect the land patent in your name, you return the APN, which is all basically fraud. Well, the lien is on the APN, which is with the assessor. It's sitting in his desk, on his, in his drawer or on his desk. All right. So when you read these liens, when you read these documents, you need to really comprehend what is an actual land, what is an actual man, what is actual, property, private property, versus the fictional things that they've created, like the person, the taxpayer, the resident, the zip code, the APN number. All that stuff is functioning in the legal, I call it the legal la-la land. That's the legal la-la land. Okay. But that's not the real property. That's not the actual land. This is not speaking about you. That's all functioning in the fictional legal la-la land world. So it's very, very important that as we start waking up and we start realizing who we are, in which position we are standing, that we are one of the people, that all the powers is in we the people. So if all the powers is in we the people, well, hold these powers and authority on the individual level as well. So so one more thing that I wanted to do is just so you know that this is actually what it is. Let's look it up in Black's Law dictionary. What is the meaning of a lien? Okay. So I'm just going on Google on my laptop here, and I'm going into Black's Law dictionary, lien definition and legal meaning. Definition and citations: a qualified right of property which a creditor has in or over specific property of his debtor, as security for the debt or charge or for performance of some act. In every ease in which property, either real or personal, is charged with the payment of a debt or duty, every such charge may be denominated a lien on the property. A lien is a charge imposed upon specific property by which it is made security for the performance of an act. Civil Code, and this is Code Civil Procedure, California. So this is the definition of the lien. So basically, if there is, it's either like, for example, my friends, they were putting solar panels on their house, and so the provider was they didn't have all the money. It was like $50,000, and they had to make payments. So the provider installed the solar panel on their roof and put a lien for the amount until the lien is completely satisfied. So that's what the lien is. But when in the case of the mortgages, you need to really comprehend. So what they do is they place the lien for the so-called alleged non-payment. Possibly I think that's what one of the people was asking. They put a lien for non-payment on the mortgage. But what did we say? That the mortgage can only exist if there was a loan. Well, if there was a loan, something had to be loaned, something of substance, something of value, right? That we agree, and it can be whatever we agree that the value is. And it has to be received. So then, they can state, well, it was not received. Now there is, they are in default. They defaulted. They are not paying on this loan. So then there can be a lien, you see. And the lien, there has to be some kind of contractual agreement that, we agreed to these services. We agreed to this performance, and then it's breached. Money is not paid. Or in the other scenario, it's just securing the future payments, that everything gets satisfied. So like, for example, with the solar provider, they put a lien because they were placing their product on the property. So they securitize it through the lien. So I hope that this answered the questions. We will continue with making these series of videos. I hope that you are having a lovely day, and I will see you on the next live. Sending love and peace your way.